Operation Sexual Harassment. Hello, my name is Sean Ward, and I'm part of the Riverside City College Department of Psychology. And today we're gonna go in about sexual harassment, a study conducted by us. To begin, the introduction. Sexual harassment is recurring and undesired sexually intended behavior in the form of comments, gestures, or physical contact. Negative outcomes manifested by the victim's unwanted sexual attention include depression, anxiety, increased stress, and a loss of motivation. Women significantly proved more cases to classify as sexual harassment in comparison to men. Women believe quid pro quo harassment as more severe than men. However, there was no difference in the severity rating of a hostile work environment in the subsample. Women significantly rated sexual harassment cases regardless of the victim's sexual orientation as meriting more investigation than men did. So here are just some quick facts about some research about sexual harassment. Beginning with our method, the participants section first. A convenient sample method was used to gather 46 undergraduate participants. Ages of participants ranged from 18 to 55, mean age of about 23 years old. 22. Gender of participants consisted of 9 males, 28 females, and 9 participants chose not to indicate. The ethnicity of participants, 10.9% identified as Asian or Asian American, 6.5% Black or African American, 6.5% as White or European American, 54.3% as Hispanic or Latino, and 2.2% as other. And lastly, 19.6% of participants chose not to indicate their ethnicity. Participants were offered 2 points extra credit as an incentive for participating in this study. The materials. Participants provided an informed consent document clarifies the procedures of the study along with the instructions, purpose, and possible risk when completing the survey. Survey consisted of 10 sexual harassment scenarios, incorporating 2 possible sexual harassment schemes: male perpetrator, female victim, or male perpetrator, male victim. Participants were asked to rate their response on a 1 to 7 likelihood scale, 7 being extremely harassing, and 1 being not harassing. Students rated the degree of sexual harassment severity. Participant scores were added up from each vignette, 10 perceived as low severity and 70 perceived as high severity. Participants were given a debriefing statement and thanked for their participation at the end of the survey. Moving on to the procedure, participants were tested online via Qualtrics. Each participant completed the informed consent document. Participants randomly were assigned to one of the 2 conditions: male perpetrator, male victim, male perpetrator, female victim. They were instructed to carefully read each vignette and rate the degree of severity of each sexual harassment scenario. Next, participants were asked to supply demographic information. That was optional. And we closed the survey with a debriefing statement, which thanked the participants and provided contact information if there were any questions regarding the study. And moving on to the design and data analysis, we used a 2x2 mixed factorial ANOVA, gender of participant by the gender of the victim, to evaluate the severity of sexual harassment perceived by men and women. The 2 independent variables were gender of the participant, either male or female, and sex of the victim in the scenario, either male or female. And the dependent variable was participants' ratings of sexual harassment severity on a 7-point Likert scale. Our 3 main effects in the study was gender of victim, interaction between participant gender and victim gender. And the probability threshold was at p less than 0.05. Our results showed us that, we used the 2x2 mixed factorial ANOVA to investigate the perceptions of sexual harassment regarding to victims of both sexes. Our results showed us that our first hypothesis was not significant, and the mean was not a significant mean in the differences between the two sexes' scores. Hypothesis 2, the significant mean difference for sexual harassment scenarios being scored more severe when containing female victims rather than men. So, moving on to hypothesis 3, it was not a significant mean difference regarding the interaction between gender participant and gender victim on the ratings of sexual harassment scenarios. Moving on to our discussion, our purpose of the study was to investigate perceptions of sexual harassment in regards to victims of both sexes, male and female. We formulated 3 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, women would rate sexual harassment scenarios as more severe to our male participants. That was not significant. Sexual harassment scenarios containing female victims would be rated more severe than sexual harassment scenarios containing male victims, and that was significant. Significant interaction between gender participant and gender of the victim on the ratings of sexual harassment scenarios, and that turned out to be not significant. Next part. Possible reasons why hypothesis 1 was not significant may be due to the light sexual harassment draws on current day. Men are now up to date on what is considered sexual harassment due to educational programs in school, training programs instituted by work forces, and news outlets' coverage of sexual harassment. Possible reasons why hypothesis 2 was significant is because individuals are aware of what sexual harassment is. However, people are conditioned to stigmas that surround the definition and typical scenarios like a male perpetrator, female victim. Participants are just not familiarized with the possibility of males being sexually harassment victims regardless of the sexual orientation. Hypothesis 3 was not significant because of similar reasons. Why hypothesis 2 is participants were likely to consider the sexual harassment scenarios severe, but the difference between the perception of a male or a female victim is where the study found the largest significant mean difference. The interaction between gender of the participant and gender of the victim is displayed. Women would not be biased if the victim was either male or female, and the results are showing us male participants view sexual harassment scenarios differently because they're accustomed to sexist stereotypes behind sexual harassment. Some limitations. Our sample size was too small. It's recommended you have 100. We had 46. Results cannot be generalized to the study population or community because we did have a convenient sample. Possible conflicts from cultural biases and other personal beliefs issues. That could be a limitation. Platform the study was conducted on. People may not be used to an online survey like this. They could be used to a traditional paper and pen. Possibility of inaccurate answer leading to inaccurate results is always something to be considered. Moving on to our implications, the study performed is important simply because the definition of sexual harassment is evolving every day. That being said, we, the researchers and social scientists, are learning new information from new studies that are being conducted around the world. We can only improve by mastering the context in which we are working with. Continuous knowledge of the matter must be attained. Building towards eliminating researcher and researcher participant bias is necessary to have accurate results, and conducting a study with enough participants to be considered valid is key. Finally, our conclusion. The study was very informative and eye-opening to the stance on sexual harassment. I learned a lot of things, and I hope you did too. Sexual harassment is very important, so having good knowledge about that is good to have. Closing the gap between the perception opposite sexes have on sexual harassment is coming sooner than we think. Like I said, with every study, new information is found. And the world is changing every day. Some changes are positive, some are negative. We can take a leap with one study and a few steps back with another. However, we're on the right path to regarding civil rights. And thank you for the opportunity, Professor Acosta.